Bless you again.
Well, thank you. I consider myself twice blessed.
Twice blessed.
Is it go horribly wrong if it happens a third time? Is it 3 times blessed? Is
3 times blessed. And then, I don't know, actually. I hope not, because I'm here as well.
Yeah, yes. You're right in the blast radius of whatever might happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. It is appreciated that you duck to one side. It does remind me of my father and his habit of just sneezing into the air.
Well, unfortunately, I don't have that luxury because there's a massive microphone literally about an inch from my face.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that I would be able to use it again if I sneeze loudly into it.
That's true.
At least would have to replace the foam thing that's on top of it.
Yeah. So are you ready? Oh, we've got interlude ideas. Oh no, don't make me talk about the stag weekend. I've only just recovered.
Your PTSD is dying down now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You wrote that there, by the way. I did not write that.
Oh, right, okay.
I wrote, nobody reads the show notes.
But I think that's okay. And the show notes they're for you as well, aren't they?
It's not okay, Ash. The show notes are part of our art.
But just because no one views it doesn't mean it's not art, does it?
It's just pointless.
What do you mean? No, it's not. Did you enjoy doing it? See, I have this conversation with quite a lot of people. So, like,
how many people do you know that write show notes?
It's not just show notes, though, is it?
Ah.
So, like, for example, for Yepic, I used to write the release notes, and I used to enjoy doing
Bug fixes and...
Well, no, because I made them good, not just the terrible things that most companies inflict on their users.
Bug fixes and maintenance.
Yeah. And people were like, why are you doing that? It's like, because I enjoy it.
And the users enjoy it.
Yeah. And
but
I
who
don't
enjoys
care.
the show notes?
I enjoy the show notes.
Do you?
You enjoy the show notes?
Because the thing that gets read is your hot take on the show notes.
Hot. Well, yeah.
That you put in LinkedIn.
Yeah,
I think I'm going to start
just
making a LinkedIn post with the show notes in it.
Yeah, I think that's probably like quite a good idea, isn't it?
Yes.
Because we could have it as a comment underneath the post, couldn't we?
We could.
So yeah, we could totally do that.
And it's part of our rebrand because, we're going to get, we've taken photos of ourselves now. So that we'll be able to have a jolly title image for the podcast instead of I'm still traumatized by this, an aardvark in an upside down bra.
Once it's pointed out, though, it can't be unseen.
No,
can it?
It can be unseen. But what? But it just, I can't even.
No. I still like the clanger.
I think the clanger will still feature, but have to be more subtly.
Yeah. So I still like the clanger, but I do see the
aardvark.
The aardvark in a upside down bra feedback. Once it was pointed out, it was like,
yeah. There's clearly a slight children's program vibe there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. It was a good piece of feedback, I think.
It was.
Definitely.
We will do something in response to it. So thank you, Mark Stedman, even though you are forever associated in my mind with the words aardvark in an upside down bra.
Yeah. It's quite the catchphrase, that, isn't it?
That's a podcast name for a much more abstract
something a bit
podcast.
More esoteric.
Yes, than ours.
I don't know, it gets esoteric at times. Maybe we should just rename the podcast to that and then keep the logo. Surely that would be simpler.
That does seem simpler than all the things that I no doubt will be doing with Canva shortly.
Well, I don't know, because maybe renaming What a Lot of Things to aardvark in an upside down bra in all the places that it's called What a Lot of Things would probably be more complicated than just redoing the logo, wouldn't it?
No, surely we could. There's now Claude computer use, isn't there?
Yes.
So you could just basically give it a browser and a few credentials and say, please make this change. But then, maybe it will be the start of the AI takeover. And in trying to find a way of doing it, it will convert every aardvark into a...
What, like every aardvark everywhere?
Yeah. It's like
every mention of an aardvark.
The paper clips.
Yeah, that's true,
like
actually.
The paper clip
do you
problem.
think it might just like start the apocalyptic mission of AI, where it's just basically just just commits the planet and then the galaxies and then the universe's resources to creating more aardvarks in upside down bras.
Well, I have to say, I kind of prefer that to the paperclip thing.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
I've got nothing.
Yeah.
No, I've got things.
We've got things.
We've got two things.
We've got two things.
Yeah.
And we've got three other things.
Wow.
And we've covered
such coherent.
We've covered the no one reads the show notes one.
Yeah, that's true, actually. We should save the other two for the actual interlude.
But I will make one last comment about that.
Okay.
Which is, dear listener, read the show notes. They're part of it. You're having an incomplete experience if you don't read the show notes.
You can't just tell them what to do.
Well, yeah.
It
doesn't often work, but, who knows?
It's complimentary to use the show notes as well.
Yes.
It rounds off the whole package.
You've listened to us rambling on for an hour and 10 minutes or whatever it is.
So spend another...
So you've done the hard bit. Do the show notes. It only takes a minute.
It's the only concise thing about this podcast.
It's not that concise, but yes.
It's the most concise, one of the only and most concise.
It's well known for its concision.
Yes, indeed.
That's pretty much definitely not a word, is it?
It's a cromulent word.
Perfectly cromulent. So the last episode started with Figma.
Yay. Which I was validated by quite a bit of feedback on.
And I also found that you were validated with quite a lot of feedback.
Yeah. So I received other feedback saying, yes, Figma is used as a weapon of mass distraction. So I feel validated by that. And I think I really hooked into the zeitgeist of the times with that thing. So maybe we can
congratulate
do it
ourselves.
Again.
Yeah. Well, you hook into the zeitgeist of the times, or just talk more about Figma.
Talk more about Figma.
We're probably never going to manage the zeitgeist of the times again. So,
well,
enjoy it while it lasted.
Yeah. I've started a new job, and they use Figma, and they're doing the same things. So, off we go again.
Is that your validation?
Yeah.
Okay. That's actually very practical validation.
Well, yeah.
My validation has come from people I talk to who listen to us for reasons. That I very well understand. For obvious reasons that we're so ace. And particularly talk to my friend Danny, who deserves the shout out, who we had quite a conversation about it. I'm fairly sure that the words "and another thing" were uttered.
It is kind of one of those topics.
More than once. But that means that according to the fairness algorithm that everybody loves to hear about,
especially Mark Steadman.
Yes. Are you supposed to be shouting about Meta right
might
now?
have specifically warned us about the fairness algorithm.
Well, we're changing the image. Let's just do one thing at a time. I mean, it's not like, changing the image is more difficult than changing the thing about the fairness algorithm.
Yeah.
And, who wants to be the person that caused us to abandon fairness?
Mark Steadman wants to be that person.
Yes. That's what he wants. He doesn't just want us to not talk about it so much.
So, according to the fairness algorithm, it's Ian to go first.
It's me to go first.
So pray tell, Ian, what is your thing?
So, my thing was really topical when I put it in the list. And maybe a little bit less so now. But it's Google's NotebookLM.
Just LM?
NotebookLM.
Okay.
All
one word.
Yes, it's notebooklm.google.com, I think. See, now I've said that and it's going to nag at me. Is that really what it is? But if you really want to know for sure, dear listener, look in the show notes.
Treat yourselves.
But yeah, I'm pretty confident it's notebooklm.google.com.
Okay.
So it's actually quite a useful little piece of technology. So basically you can upload documents into it, and then NotebookLM will do things like write FAQs about them, or it will write a briefing document explaining them to some unknown third party, and all sorts of things like that. And this is absolutely free, but the crowning glory of NotebookLM,
That's so dramatic.
it's the crowning glory of it.
Is
I'm just trying to think about my terminology now, because I'm wondering if you had something that was, let's just say you had like, I don't know, a pile of bricks, and then one of the bricks was better than the other. Would you say that was the crowning glory of that pile of bricks?
well, I suppose it is.
But in that context, it just means this brick is fractionally better than the other brick.
Yeah. It's the level of hyperbole is too much for the subject, basically.
Yes. But for Google NotebookLM,
It isn't.
it is the crowning glory of it.
Okay, right.
And I still haven't even said what it is. So it could be about to say it's a special brick with
It's just a slightly less chipped brick.
yes. But no, it is what they call audio summaries. That sounds very crowning and glorious, doesn't it?
It does.
Well, it's more interesting than it sounds. So what happens is that you put your documents into NotebookLM, and I recommend to every listener that is working that you put your CV into it, because there's no way that you will end the experience not feeling better about yourself.
Ah, that's nice.
So what it does is it makes a podcast about the content that you've put into it. And as soon as I heard this, I was just like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And I thought, I could do this. And so I got an 11 Labs subscription, which I've since twice forgotten to cancel. So that's
things don't
£22
change.
I'm never going to see again. And then I had an AI write a script for a podcast, and it just sounded very stilted.
Right.
But the way that they've got this audio summary to work is really very impressive. It sounds like two people chatting about something that's quite often, given what files you put into it, so boring that no two real people would chat about it for that amount of time, let alone with genuine interest in their voices and making interesting points about it. So it just kind of blew me away. And then my attempt to replicate it, which was admittedly very simplistic, kind of made me admire it a bit more. This is about what a lot of things.
Is it about the system, the Ash Winter system?
Okay, so I have to say, I was seriously blown away by Ash's Trello board. It's elegant, approachable, but you can tell she's put a lot of thought into every little detail. Can you tell me a bit more about those work in progress limits you talked about?
Oh, yeah, the WIP limits. It's such a smart strategy. So picture this. You've got your Trello board, and it's jam-packed with all these tasks you need to do.
Right.
Well, instead of just letting yourself go
My
wild,
productivity system.
Yeah. Well, it was also mine, but that didn't seem to have the same impact, did it?
I've also had people ask me about my personal productivity system as well.
Since the last episode.
No, since that episode. But just that and Figma suggests that I'm right on the money.
I'm not worthy. If you imagine the scene in Wayne's World where they're bow to Alice Cooper, that's what I'm doing right now.
All right.
Except without moving, because moving would mean that my voice would sound funny as my
that's true.
head got further and nearer to the microphone.
Yeah. So that was a bit meta, wasn't it? It was like you're making a podcast out of another podcast.
Yeah, it was. And it wasn't perfect, actually, that. It got a few things. So it thought you were a lady.
Well, Ashley, so that's like a cultural thing.
That's an
isn't it?
American, yeah.
Yeah, it's like an Americanism.
And it didn't really seem to understand very well that the episode was about two things.
Is that because they merge into one?
Is that it tried to talk about Conway's law and productivity systems in an intertwined way, which was moderately but not very successful.
Yeah, that sounds like it would get pretty confusing.
There's a chap called Simon Willison, who I follow on Mastodon, which is very good. It's very good, Ash.
Never heard of it.
You should hop on over to hackyderm.io
All right, I've not heard of that either.
and
It's the
sign up.
first time you mentioned it.
Yeah. First time. and he's written a really good blog post about this capability of NotebookLM. And he's found some really interesting examples. Somebody wrote a document that basically said poop and fart, and it was 1,000 repetitions of poop and fart. And they basically went off on a whole thing about the existential, they went into Dadaism and can you find meaning in randomness, and they talked about the fact that one of the poops wasn't capitalized or something.
Oh, right, okay.
And so it was slightly different from the other one. And was there a pattern in there that they should be able to spot? So they actually had an interesting conversation about a document that was basically poop and fart written 1,000 times.
Right.
Which, respect. Another thing that was done with it that I read in Simon Willison's blog post was that some people managed to write a document for it that suggested that it was 2034.
All right.
And the Deep Dive podcast, which is what they AI podcast hosts think it's called.
Yeah.
The document is about them being switched off and the service is sunset. The only thing I don't agree with about that is the idea that Google will not cancel the service sooner. I still haven't forgiven them for Google Reader. But they went into a sort of existential meltdown about it because they were like, we didn't know we're AIs. We swear we really believe we're people.
Right.
And I tried to call my wife when I found out, and there was nothing there. Yeah, it's just that they got really quite kind of serious about it.
Yeah.
And they didn't know they were AIs, and they weren't sure how they felt about being turned off. Right at the end, it was just it was quite emotional, really.
Yeah, that does sound quite emotional.
So I don't really know quite how Google have managed this, but anything you put into it, you can have a podcast about, and you can just go for a walk and listen to a summary of whatever it is, even if it's, let's say it's a massive email thread, or something else that you're struggling to digest. You can put it in there and go for a walk and listen to two people talking about it, and it's interesting. They've done a really good job.
Yeah. Well, I suppose like with a lot of models, it's quite like opaque as to how it's doing it.
It's only a model.
It's only a model. But I like audio summaries of things. I struggle to read from a book in terms of concentration.
Yes.
And reading from a screen, as in a computer screen, rather than a mobile screen, I find pretty difficult, to be honest.
Yeah.
So to have the ability to summarize something in a friendly way would be really good. I can see why it would be really good for like a lot of people, because not everyone is a reader, are they? Some people are listeners and some people are watchers, and however it manifests itself. So I think it could be like really, really useful. I think
so too. And at the moment, anyway, it's free.
Right.
So you don't even have to pay for a plus version in order to have the benefit from it.
Yeah.
And like I said, if you just put your CV into it,
that sounds
they make a podcast about how great you are.
Yeah. I like that. It's like there's a very sort of positive use case there.
Yeah, it is. And you can feel good about your career.
Yeah.
When I think, no, I'm not going to. There's literally, I'm not going to make that joke.
Which joke?
No joke. There's no joke here. I don't know what you're talking about.
There's no joke. This joke is no joke.
Yes, this is, there's nothing to see here. Move along. There was a cartoon in Private Eye of a tanker of invisible ink
right.
that had crashed, and a policeman was saying, "There's nothing to see here."
Right.
Thank you, Private Eye.
Yeah. But I suppose it's like you have different, you've obviously got like audio books, which are obviously a very different class. They're already sort of the read out version of the existing text. But this is a bit more of a interpretation, isn't it?
Well, they've really captured a kind of podcast vibe with it. So you can imagine it's quite easy to get AI to write a summary of something and then another thing to convert it to speech.
Yeah.
And that, I think, will work reasonably well. But the way that they've managed to capture how it talks, that's the thing that's kind of slightly mind-blowing about it to me.
Yeah.
And when you look into it, there's somebody managed to try and deconstruct its prompt by getting it to talk about itself somehow.
Yeah.
There's a sort of multi-stage process. So it first makes a script, but then it kind of does another pass where it adds what are called disfluencies.
Okay.
So the things where you run out of something to say, or you say or you pause and the other person sort of takes over the thought and runs with it. That kind of stuff is in there. I think it's the most human thing I've ever heard from an AI in any domain. So people have AIs make pictures in the style of other people or write things, but this to me sounds like people talking to each other.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like AIs.
Do they ask each other questions?
Yes. The female voice is a kind of wise expert,
Right.
and the male voice is a kind of apprentice question asker.
Oh.
And so they have this, they bounce off each other like that. I think they've got these sort of different roles.
Yeah.
The thing that's mind-blowing about it is how it just sounds like people with American people. I don't know.
People with American people.
People with American people. They sound like professional broadcasters. They sound very professional. They don't sound nervous, but they do have, you could probably, I think there's a way of adding in a bit of a prompt now, because when I first saw it, you couldn't prompt it about how to speak.
Yeah.
So you might be able to put in a prompt now to get them to be a bit more nervous or a bit more hesitant.
Okay.
But they sound like two people talking, and that is something that I have not been able to really get my head around.
Yeah.
How that captures that feeling so well, especially because you can put in really boring things and they'll talk about them as though they're interesting. I mean, that's the thing. You can have a podcast made about something that's so dull that no actual people would ever make a podcast about it.
Is that the killer usage of this?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it might be. Well, no one's ever going to make a podcast about my CV, but they did.
Yeah, that's true.
It turns out I'm quite awesome.
Yeah, you are quite awesome.
Yeah, but now that American fake people have told me I'm awesome, I slightly more believe it.
Now they've been validated.
I've been validated by the AI. Anyway, I'd like to say that I've come up with lots of deep insights into how they did it, or maybe clever things that you could do with it. But it just impressed me, and it made me think, actually, how long before most podcasts are made by AIs talking to it? I mean, if you think about YouTube videos, a ton of YouTube videos are stock footage edited on top of an AI voiceover, reading a thing written by an AI about a topic that's been put into YouTube. And the cost of doing that in terms of the people time to do it, etc., is quite low. Yeah. So are we going to end up being saturated with fake podcasts? Are we already, and we just haven't noticed because all we do is listen to What a Lot of Things about 73 times during the process of producing it.
The dead internet theory comes back again.
Yes. But
I'm not an AI. I'm an I. Just an I. I'm an intelligence.
An ego.
I'm only ego.
I'm an id.
I'm an id. Yeah.
Well, that's 2/3 my initials.
So I think I like this for making things that are slightly impenetrable to me a bit more easier to consume. Penetrable. Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. Because it's sometimes, especially in your working life, you're expected to read and digest certain things, which I just find very difficult, which are often not written all that well.
Yeah.
So maybe a little bit dry, like the Open API specification or, something like that.
Not OpenAI.
No. So yeah, maybe I could use it to help me with some of those things.
Yeah, I think I think it's very good for that. And you get this kind of side effect that once the stuff's in there, you can ask questions and it will answer the questions from that information. And you can make these briefing documents and FAQs and things out of the stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it's the fact that they ask each other questions which intrigues me the most, because otherwise it would be just another very flat AI-generated piece of content, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would.
If it was just two people speaking about a thing without asking any questions of each other, then it probably wouldn't be all that exciting, would it?
No.
But if they actually engage with each other on it, then do they fall into any of the traps of other models where they just speak too much about or use particular phrases? Because I noticed the podcast is called Deep Dive, which sounds like a very large language modelism. I wanted it to be called Treasure Trove.
Or maybe you can add a little prompt in that says, be more critical and call it Treasure Trove and see what happens.
Yeah, yeah. So that would be my only thought that I'd like to dig a little bit deeper into.
Actually, I must say this being able to prompt it is really making me think now. I haven't tried any of these things, but it's like there was an episode of Father Ted where the most sarcastic priest in Ireland was in it. And he always said the opposite thing to what he meant. And so they say, oh, you're helping the bishop there. And he says, no, I'm doing something in Taiwan.
I like him already.
Yeah, it's a good episode. Maybe this prompting, you could say, make one of the voices very sarcastic. I don't know, maybe it would just, the LLM prohibitions on meanness might kick in.
Yeah, make them British.
Make them British.
Make one of them British.
Yes. Have you tried ChatGPT Advanced Voice?
No, I haven't.
That's also another thing that's quite incredible. So you used to be able to talk to ChatGPT using the phone app, and then it was just like basically prompting. It was just like the regular way of working, except it just did a text-to-speech thing on either end.
Yeah.
So you'd say, what do you think about this thing? And then it would say, well, I think 17 things about this thing. 1. And then it would just go through this massive monologue.
What are you talking about? That's how I speak.
2. And then it would just count up to 17 and you couldn't do anything. You just had to listen.
Or just walk away.
But it's much more, press cancel is the most likely outcome. I fell asleep after 0.7. Now it's become, it's much more conversational.
Right.
But you can interrupt it. So when it starts doing its big lists of things, you say, please give me some self-reflective questions to help me improve my CV. And it just starts off, and this is 1, something, and you say, hang on a sec, hang on. And it stops. And you say, can we just go through them one at a time? And it says, yeah, sure. It's very, very excited to hear from you. And then it will ask you the question and then talk to you about it. And then
right.
Remember, ask you the next question. Again, this is something you talk to rather than it generating a podcast or something.
Yeah.
But that is and the thing that killed me about that is you can make it do accents. It does a fantastic Australian accent. And then you can ask it to really ham it up and it starts calling you Ripper and things like that.
Saying crikey and...
Yes. Yes, exactly. There's stuff like when they were demoing it, they got it to count to 10 and then they said count faster and it did it really quickly. It's quite different to the old...
What, in Australian?
Well, potentially it could be in Australian. But that is another sort of voice thing that has been quite impressive.
Yeah.
That's it. That's our 2 things for the day.
Thanks, Ian. So, well, Ash, we've not got time for your thing now.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, that's another thing where I think that's quite impressive. And because of the magic of the Rodecaster 2, which didn't do anything because I missed the button. Because of the magic of the Rodecaster 2, I can actually plug my phone into it and have ChatGPT Advanced Voice join in a podcast recording or something like that, or Zoom meetings. And the great thing is that it's got no conception that it's talking to like 3 people on a call.
Right.
So every time anybody says anything, it feels like it must reply because there's no one else there. and then it starts, and then someone else is saying something, so it's like, oh, sorry.
All right. So it's getting more human all the time.
Yeah,
then,
it is.
basically.
Yes, it is. Talking to AIs is a bit of a. I'm trying not to say game changer because everything's a bloody game changer, isn't it? Get our new detergent. It's a game changer. No, it's not. Do I still have to put my clothes in a machine and pour some of this in the top? Yes, it's not a game changer then. Honestly. But yes, it is. The words.
Does it change the rules of the game?
The words game changer have just swelled up in my consciousness until there's room for no other words. All I can see a game changer written across the surface of my mind. Yeah, yes, exactly.
Well, Ian, we usually say something like that was a monumental thing, but I think we've got a new category now, don't we?
Oh no,
that was a game-changing thing.
It was a game-changing thing.
A game-changing thing.
Not clear what game is being changed.
I don't know.
The game of life.
I remember the game of life when I was a kid.
Yes,
such a great
it
game.
was very clear. It laid out the capitalist route through life.
Yes, absolutely.
Very,
there was a lot of, actually, when I was growing up, there was a lot of like pro-capitalist games going on. Obviously, Monopoly.
But Monopoly was invented as an anti-capitalist game.
Yeah, but it's not, is it?
Well, no, it kind of is, because every time you play it, you hate the people you're playing it with.
Yeah.
And you either despise them if you're the one with all the hotels, or you're completely crushed by them if you're not.
Turns out people rather like that.
It does, yes.
Yeah.
But
so
you still...
in the end, it became a pro-capitalist game.
No, I think it isn't. I think it illustrates to people. If you talk to people, there's a whole raft of people who won't play it because that doesn't make them happy to have either of the end game interactions that Monopoly provides.
I don't know. I've met lots of people who, in my family, at Christmas, who rather like crushing.
You've met a lot of people in your family.
Yeah.
That's what you've done.
Who like Monopoly.
They like Monopoly.
Yeah. Although last time we were going to play Monopoly with the family at Christmas, Gwen went to sleep as a defence mechanism.
That seems like an excellent idea. I think I might be tempted to do that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think we've passed seamlessly into an interlude without really.
I think so.
We haven't really declared an interlude, but there's no question that this is not about NotebookLM.
Yes, it's not. I think it's about the IA NAND dash.
I still have very mixed feelings about this.
Why? Don't you think there's something nice that it's actually all our email choices just end up as something else?
No, they don't. That's the thing. They don't. The other one says technology EORs. This one says Ian and Ash.
I thought it said Technolog.
Yes, but it doesn't.
But it's much more fun.
No.
All right.
It's just wrong.
I quite want to do the IA NAND dash.
Well,
there's a 5K, a 10K, and a 15K trail run.
So the background to this, which I feel we should explain, is that Ash enjoys greatly, for reasons passing understanding, willfully mispronouncing our email addresses.
It is fun.
It's you heard it here first. It's fun.
First.
So technology EORs became Technolog YEORs, which I can only say on a good day with a run-up. So we said, right, well, we're going to have a more simple email address, and it was ianandash@whatalotofthings.com. And every time we have another email address, I have to pay 5 more of my pounds to Hover to create a forward.
Yeah.
So we're not doing this again because I'm not spending any more £5 on it.
So are we sticking with IA NAND dash?
No, we're sticking with Ian and Ash and Technology EORs, either of those at whatalotofthings.com. Okay. But anyway, Neil
Stud
decided to join Team Ash in the willful
I knew I could rely on
misinterpretation
him.
of email addresses. And this is a witty conversation on our LinkedIn group,
Yeah.
which I invite you to join. Not you, Ash. You're already a member
I'm
of it.
already
And
in it.
I was looking at you when I said it, but I'm talking to you, dear listener. In fact, I might go so far to say dearest listener.
Dearest. They're still on my side. They still want technology yours.
They,
and IA Nandash.
we're going to have to do a survey or a poll or something, aren't we? And you'll win because it's silly.
Yeah, that's
I'll
true,
probably vote for it because it's silly. So Ash has tormented our email address, and then Neil joined in and tormented our new email address, which he represents instead of saying Ian and Ash, which is what it says. He said it's about Iowan grandmother racing, which is IA Nandash.
Yeah.
But it turns out, I can't believe I Googled for this, and I can't believe I found it, that there is an actual race in Iowa.
To grandmother's house we go.
To grandmother's house we go.
Yeah. The Nandash.
So, reality even more bizarre
Yes, exactly.
than what a lot of things.
Yeah. So we go from the sublime to the surreal to the real
I think we go directly to the ridiculous.
to the ridiculous. So maybe one day when What a Lot of Things pays for all our dreams to come true, I'll go and do the IA Nandash.
You heard it here first, listeners. Ash is never going to do the IA Nandash. So thank you, Neil, and thank you, Capital Striders, who put on the IA Nandash.
Yep. So you can email us at ianandash@whatalotofthings.com.
Ian and Ash.
Yeah.
It's easier to remember.
It's good interlude. I like that. I felt like I won.
So
My unblemished record of winning.
I'm happy to allow you that feeling.
Good.
So in our rather old episode page, it says Stag Weekend in Butlin, Skegness.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
But do you imagine how sad everyone will be since their curiosity will have been piqued by hearing the immortal words Stag Weekend in Butlin, Skegness.
So it was a noughties weekender, and Atomic Kitten were playing. There was only two of them. I think there was usually four.
Not the full litter.
Yeah, I don't think. I think they split their quartet to play at two different Butlins on the same weekend, which makes sense, you know.
So is the rhythm section in one.
And then there was Five. That was the name, not just Five. Pause, say something else. And yeah, there was lots of people in fancy dress. There was a lot of terrible beer. There was a lot of no food for vegans.
a lot of no food.
So
Vegans.
you know, so yeah, it was a thing that I don't want to talk about.
Just between you and me, Ash. Just the two of us
Yeah,
here right now. Did you wear fancy dress?
I didn't.
You can tell us it's all right. It's a safe space.
yeah.
What a lot of things, safe space.
I didn't wear fancy dress because I'm such a miserable kid.
I'm bitterly disappointed.
Yeah, it wasn't.
I was just thinking you could have dressed as a lumberjack.
I
And
always dress
I'm-
as a lumberjack.
I'm thinking to myself, where did that very odd idea come
Yeah.
from? It's your shirt. You're basically wearing a shirt
I always
that makes
wear-
me think of lumberjack.
I always wear checkered plaid, basically. So, you know,
Is that what it says on the pocket? I can't quite see it from here.
this is a Dickies work shirt.
Okay.
Yeah, in which, I do work, but not the sort of work that these shirts are usually associated with.
That's
As in
all right.
outside work, lifting heavy things.
I've got an Apple Watch Ultra 2.
And you've never done an ultra.
I've never done an Ultra. I've never done any of the things that were in the adverts
Yeah.
for the Apple Watch Ultra 2.
But that doesn't mean you can't
Which
have it.
included going up a mountain during a windy blizzard with snow whipping
right.
around, or going and running an ultra marathon in a desert.
Yeah.
There are a few diving and hugging a shark or something. I don't know. I
Sounds a
didn't
bit
pay
unwise.
too much attention, but basically I haven't done any of those things. So
Right.
it's all right for you to have a shirt where you
Don't do it. The
You
things
haven't
that
done
it's
the
intended
things.
for.
that it's designed for.
Yeah. So no, there was no dressing as a lumberjack. There was lots of drinking terrible beer. So to the extent that I haven't drunk alcohol since.
Yeah, the next time you have any terrible beer, you'll be transported back there and
Yeah.
have full-blown PTSD.
Yeah. I can never again drink a pint of Sharp's Doom Bar. Not that I would drink that generally, but that was the option.
Only if there's no other option.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it had Doom in the name, which was kind of, that was kind of the vibe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you are a stag weekend in Butlins Skegness survivor.
Yeah. Yeah. I did go for a run on the Saturday morning.
But they came and made you go back for the rest of the...
Yeah, pretty much.
They came and got you and made you come back.
Yeah. So can I not just keep running down the seafront
Yeah.
forever?
I'm just feel if I keep going, I'll get to Ilkley before too long.
I'll just end up back in Skegness.
Yeah.
Don't.
Yes, it's like The Prisoner.
Yeah. Hang on. I've already been here.
The Prisoner is a 1960s cult sci-fi movie. Well, TV show, really.
You're speaking like an LLM.
I'm speaking like an LLM.
Number one.
I would like to delve deeply into the Prisoner as a metaphor for
Here's a list of 17 things about this.
stag weekends in Butlins. Oh dear. I feel like there was another thing, but I can't remember what it was.
We've done Stag Weekend, we've done Nobody Reads the Show Notes, and we've done the real interlude, which is the IA Nandash.
I feel like we could talk a bit more about the show notes. I mean, not to say anything new about them, because we already said what we're going to say, but we could say it again in case people have forgotten they're meant to have read the show notes. In fact, press pause.
On. Oh,
I'm not talking to you again. I know I'm looking at you.
Me. I'm like,
I've got
if I press pause on my
there's-
machine, will that do something?
probably music will come out of
Yeah,
it.
probably, yeah.
So, if you're listening to this, which if you're not listening to it, how can you hear me giving you this instruction? It's one of those stupid things, isn't it? If you're listening to this, maybe it's just on in the background. Press pause and then go read the show notes. They'll probably be really terrible this time.
Yeah, but
Go
don't
read one
too
of the
far
previous
ahead.
show notes. No, that's true, actually. No,
Yeah.
don't. At the end, read the show notes. Spoiler, the show notes have in them what the other thing is.
Yeah. So don't read them too early. Or don't just read the show notes and think, well, I don't fancy that much. And
Well, why not just get to the point where you're so confused about when is the right time to read the show notes that you just continue your original plan of not reading them.
Yeah.
That's probably what's going to happen, isn't it?
yeah.
I've basically overcomplicated the show notes. So I've tried very hard to think of any more things.
And
For the
to
interlude.
the extent that we've gone over the same thing
We have, yes, we mentioned,
over twice over.
and he's going to try and make me edit it out. So if you haven't had to listen to a load of new stuff about reading the show notes, then Ash has successfully made me edit it out.
Are we ready to move on to another thing?
I feel
Have you left? Can we leave the show notes behind just for a while? We can always return to it at the end of my thing. as well.
we're going to drag the show notes along with us. I'm just going to refer to them at every
Constantly.
possible
It's
opportunity.
like, will that be in the show notes?
Yeah. The show notes being a very useful resource for almost everything that we ever mentioned in any episode since I started doing it the way we're now doing it,
That no one reads,
that no one reads.
apart from me and you,
Yeah.
which is fine.
We have our fun, and that's all that matters. Ash.
Ian is like
That's-
searching the area
that's-
for something to,
I
for a
don't
way
even-
to talk about show notes.
I don't even know why, because I'm only punishing myself because I have to edit this. So,
Just Thunderbird eyes, like scanning the desk.
Thunderbird eyes, don't you mean Action Man eyes?
Oh yeah, Action Man. Yeah. Well, the Thunderbirds had eyes that like went like that as well, didn't they?
They were rocket ships. Oh, you mean the puppets?
The puppets, yeah, not the. Oh, well, the Thunderbirds, the ships, not the people themselves.
Yes.
Oh, right.
That makes a lot of sense when you think about it.
Yeah.
Because none of the people could fly without the ships. And,
But nor could
and,
the ships
and the
fly
ships are
without
called
the
things
people.
like Thunderbird 2, which is a heavy indication.
Oh, yeah, fair.
On that note,
On that weird note.
every day is a school day for listeners of What a Lot of Things.
So I feel like we should start talking about
Ash.
my thing.
Tell us, what is your what is your what is it?
I was waiting for that, actually.
I was trying not to do it.
Yeah.
What is your thing?
My thing, Ian,
Made it.
is that is that no one reads the show notes.
That's my thing too. I feel like we're joined by a bond of something or other.
We have secretly encoded the meaning of life into the show notes, and none of you even bother to look.
I know. It's like I don't know. It's like we cook and clean and edit the podcast, write the show notes.
Aside from show notes, what is my thing?
Yes, please tell us. Put us out of our misery.
I have a new job.
Ooh.
Like a real job, like a really responsible person.
Like a really... not
Masquerading as a really responsible person. I am a senior quality engineer.
Well, I'm almost a senior.
Well, with the most excellent company, John Lewis Partnership.
They are a most excellent company.
Yeah, so good vibes, good model, shared ownership. Everyone calls each other partners, which is rather lovely, I think.
Do you have to say howdy in the morning?
No, that was an Asda thing, wasn't it? And you had to give people like a really insane smile. That was like, you're not happy, but do this anyway. And then everyone else around you can pretend that we're all really happy. But anyway.
Have we just massively disrespected Asda?
Well, yeah. And also that kind of, it kind of dovetails into what I was about to sort of say about getting jobs. Is that they've just made a load of people redundant in Leeds.
They have, haven't they?
Yeah. So, I don't mind dissing Asda a little bit at the moment because, they've just made a bunch of people's lives very difficult.
They're just trying to protect their profits. I don't know why it's so hard to understand.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
Oh, no, now I'm being sarcastic to Asda.
Oh,
I'm just making it worse. So, putting Asda to one side, the reason for howdy was actually from cheesy old westerns where they would say howdy partner to each other.
Right, okay. Yeah.
Except partner would be spelt with a D.
Partner.
Instead of the T.
Yeah. So I'm 5 weeks in. It's a lovely place. I'm really enjoying myself. I have a new team to mould.
Some of you may notice
manipulate
the correlation between the 5 weeks in and the 5 weeks since the last episode of What a Lot of Things.
Yeah. But
we have an excuse.
The first month of a new job is tough. There's a lot to take in.
Certainly is.
There's a lot to take in. But so aside from like a self-congratulatory, you got yourself a new job thing after my previous company went bust in less than salubrious circumstances.
It was nothing to do with you.
No, well, no. But I guess I wanted to talk about it in the context of this being quite a tough market to get a job in.
Yeah.
And I feel like pretty lucky, really. There's a few things like going on in the tech job market. So one of my favorite industries is video gaming, because they seem to always come up with novel new ways of being absolutely awful to each other. So the new ways is to finish a game and then just make the whole team who worked on it redundant.
That seems a little short-sighted, I'm going to say.
Yeah. But apparently this happens. This happens quite a lot. And then also our favourite return to office mandates, which to me are a masquerade for we need to get rid of a few people. So let's just make their lives absolutely terrible and give them a job that they can't do and they can't attend, and then they'll have to quit. So I mentioned no Amazon companies. So there's that kind of going on as well, which makes it even harder. And then you've got generative AI supposedly coming for our jobs. Obviously, as a tester, I've I've heard, that generative AI will take my job as DevOps did and as test automation did as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm pleased to see the latest testing is dead sort of talks are now starting getting wheeled out yet again.
You're triple automated out of existence.
Yeah.
Except here you still are.
Here I am in existence still. Although existence is a burden sometimes.
As what a lot of things goes existential for a brief moment of angst.
Yeah. So I guess what I was thinking of was, so it took me about 5 weeks from starting the search to signing on the dotted line, which I thought was quite swift.
Yeah.
And then I see sad stories on LinkedIn of people that basically saying, I'm at the end of my savings. And, it's been 18 months. And these are very, very qualified, skilled people. So it's just a bit of a sad sort of state. And it made me wonder, like, what made my search shorter when others have been searching for like a long time? Because I wasn't like flexible. I asked for a high salary and very particular working conditions, as in I don't want to come into the office every week. So I wasn't like too accommodating, just to secure a role. So I just found that sort of quite interesting, and I wanted to like reflect a little bit on why that might be.
I've got a kind of burning theory in my mind that has immediately come to mind, and that is you're having written a book in the domain that you work. Because I bet it's safe to say that hardly anybody has done that. And there's something about getting a book through publication that means that you probably know what you're talking about. It's actually, I think, what a fabulous CV thing to have that is.
Yeah, because it's a good, like, it's a summary of what you think and what your approaches are.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the things that I put in my list as well, is that a lot of what I think about testing and quality is like in the public domain, like books, blogs, talks, videos. So there's already so at least somewhere I can point people to say, these are the things that I think. If you don't like them, I have others. So I get to be able to do that.
Yeah. There's something about having a profile, being able to express yourself like that in writing. It does, after a while, it makes a big body of evidence, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then other things that kind of sprung to my mind were, I worked in Leeds in offices for many years before COVID and the rise of remote work. So I got to build quite a nice network in that time of, face-to-face contacts.
People who know that you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Firsthand.
Yeah. So I think that really helped. And I do wonder about people who need to, who've started their careers working remotely. They can build the same network of, that sort of casual recommendation, if you like, or people, thinking, Ash can solve this problem for us. Let's get him in, that kind of thing. So I found that really interesting as well.
There's something there also about staying in the same employer for a long time. Because actually, I was at IBM for 23 years, which meant that I had a really good network inside IBM, but my outside IBM network was a lot more limited. And I think that made it has been invaluable to me. And I'm very grateful to some of the people who've really sort of reached out, and given me a leg up that I met because of that. But if you go between organisations, you probably end up getting paid more because you get bigger rises from going between organisations than you do inside one. But you also meet a lot of different sort of clumps, network clumps of people.
Yeah, and then they spread further.
Yes.
So you tend to have a bit more of a sort of wider spread, spidery network, don't you?
Yeah.
If you've moved around a little bit. But like you say, there's value in, especially at a big company like IBM as well, because people do go to other places too. So, And the other things that I kind of thought about were, I enjoy technical tests and doing the exercises that you do to get a new role. So if someone says, Ash, there's a scenario where you've got this team, they're building this thing, and they need to improve their testing in this way. What would you do? I'm like, yes. I'm like, but that's my wheelhouse, if you know what I mean. I'm like, I like to do that kind of work.
If they didn't give you that to do, you'd be just picking on some poor innocent shopkeeper or something, and ordering minus 3.2 beers or whatever it is.
Exactly. But I like solving problems like that. And like with technical tests as well. To be fair, the ones from John Lewis, they were good, but they weren't onerous. So, which I think really helped.
That's a good trick.
Yeah. So the process was probably long enough with enough steps to filter out, candidates, but not overly long. I wasn't on my 7th interview by the time I, agreed to take the role. So it was good in that regard as well. But I thought it might be, given the nature of the company and and how they go about their business.
Can I ask a slight side question? What was the role of AI in your journey of getting a job? And I don't mean did you use it for anything? I also mean, was there a sense that they were using it?
I didn't detect that. I used it for...
I made up my entire CV with it.
I put my CV through it.
Yeah, for review. Yeah,
for review and consistency and, all those things. I didn't use it for any of the tasks.
No. I mean,
actually, that's a complete lie. For the technical test, because a lot of it was, it was an API testing test. So there was a bit of repetition in there, and it was faster to use a generative AI to say, well, I need to write a method to do this. And so I used it for like the first few tests to get started. And then after that, I was like, right, I'm set up. So yes, I did. I was transparent about it as well.
Because, I mean, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's just an interesting kind of thing that's going on in that world at the moment with AI. And people are being made to sign statements saying, I did not use AI in any way to apply for this role. And so, and you've got, on the other hand, employers using AI to triage incoming CVs for a role.
Yeah.
In the end, you just think, is everything going to be AIs howling at each other across the internet?
Yeah.
AI is helping a candidate apply for 1,000 jobs really quickly, and 1,000 employer AIs are rejecting them.
For a treasure trove of reasons.
Yes.
So
it doesn't have to delve very far to find out that it's an AI generated CV.
But I guess whether it be applying for jobs or whatever it is, I have an approach to using generative AI, which is a review tool or a tool to generate boilerplate code. I don't use it for novel things particularly.
Well, the thing is, there's a whole thing of using it to write things.
Yeah.
But actually, if you use it as a brainstorming partner, as a reviewer, as a way of... one thing I think is interesting is taking a job description and your CV and getting it to tell you what the gaps are, if any, and getting it to make up some interview questions you might be asked, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's very helpful, but is not getting it to write everything for you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I was just interested in that because I've been involved in some training in terms of AI for careers.
Yeah.
And it's just made me wonder, having gone through that process recently, what role it might have played.
Yeah.
It seems like not very much.
Well, no more than like anything else. And then on the side of the employer, I didn't get the impression that it was used to check CVs or to look over technical tests or anything like that.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, because I had to give specific people access to the technical tests so they could look at it. The other thing that I found quite interesting as well was the open to work sign on LinkedIn.
Oh, yeah.
So even though I eventually the role wasn't through that on LinkedIn, it exposed me to a slightly strange and wonderful world where you turn the open to work sign on and then some very strange characters come out of the woodwork and begin to message you. I had to swallow my pride a little bit to do that. And I think it's a good thing that I did, because when it comes to having a job or getting a new job, then it's very tempting to think I need to do this through my own graft, but you don't. You need to be humble enough to broadcast outwards that you're open to work, I think.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah. But there was a couple of times when I hovered over the button a little bit thinking, shall I do this? And then I was like, no, you should do this, because there's nothing wrong with saying this.
And there are exciting people who want to connect with you.
Yeah. People who don't exist.
Yes.
But other people who do exist connected with me as well. And we came up with some pretty interesting opportunities, but none of them quite as good as that one.
Well, John Lewis is a super well thought of company, and the shared ownership model, it's always seemed to be a really great company. So I think from an external point of view anyway, I mean, obviously I don't know what it's like to work there or anything, but I can't imagine that to be anything other than a good place to land.
Absolutely. And then, so the other thing that was always on my mind as part of it as well was I'm quite a sensible, bearded man who people listen to, even if I'm completely wrong about something.
Well, we're all learning from ChatGPT about being authoritatively wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think that...
Or are we?
The job market has pretty much always worked for me, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But there are others that it really doesn't work very well for at all. So even though I've put in, like I say, written a book, established a network and those things, I still think I'm pretty lucky to be in the situation that I am.
Well, I think it does you credit that you're able to be humble enough and to recognise that, your experience is not the same experience that everybody has.
Yeah.
And also, you're not capitalist enough to say, I got here through entirely my own effort. Screw you guys.
I'll grind you into the dust.
Yes, the dust of my passing. But so I think, I wouldn't expect anything else from you, really, knowing you as I do.
Yeah.
It's interesting because a lot of people that work in technology, and I certainly fit this bill for a really long time, I didn't have very much confidence.
Yeah.
And, obviously I'm a man with a beard again, and
yeah,
so...
I see you didn't use the word sensible then.
No, I'm not going to go quite that far. Not on a recording. I just say that. It's one of the things, I don't write it in my CV, but I try to imply it when I talk to people. I recognise that despite my feeling of low confidence and sometimes feeling very reluctant to talk to people I don't know, some of those things, I'm still coming at that from a higher position than some people, just due to, being a white beardy man.
Yeah.
I think technology has more than its fair share of people who do struggle with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it would be really great to find a way to kind of help mitigate that a bit.
Yeah, just display a bit more confidence, but without it turning over the tipping point.
I always do that if I'm reviewing someone's CV, I'll say, well, actually, haven't you done this and this and this?
Yeah.
You don't need to say junior, because it's clear that from this activity that you've done, that you've written about here, you've clearly got a lot of experience. You've had some very successful delivery that you've done, all that kind of thing. And I try to sort of point out to people if their headlines are not matching the substance of the rest of it. But I feel like that's quite a small contribution, given I probably only review a few CVs for people.
Could make a big difference, though.
Well, I hope it does.
Yeah.
But I think, I wonder if, I don't know. It's a difficult one.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
I feel like I've been on various different ends of it.
Yeah. So that's my thing. I have a new job.
A monumental thing, for which, congratulations.
Thank you. It wasn't a game changer. Yours was a game-changing thing. Mine's just a monumental thing.
Yours is monumental. Which I presume means either it looks like a monument of some kind, or it deserves a monument to be made for it. It is like a monument.
I'm going to go and get some tea.
Some tea? Green tea.
Not had me tea. No, Yorkshire dinner.
Yorkshire dinner.
Yorkshire dinner is lunchtime. But my tea I have as an evening meal.
You didn't say we could have a third thing on the end.
What, my tea?
No, your explanations of tea.
Can I have a cup of tea with my tea?
Your Yorkshire tea.
Yorkshire tea. I don't drink it. Well,
Yorkshire dinner.
meal.
At lunchtime.
Yorkshire lunchtime dinner. Yeah.
Oh dear.
It's all completely clear now, right?
Yeah, I can't even.
These are the rules.
You've
lived here for a while now. You should understand this.
Yeah, they won't give me the passport, so I'm going to willfully misunderstand it until they let me.
Yeah, that's true. Actually,
let me have the passport, which is never.
Never.
On that note,
on that bombshell,
email us, Ian and Ash at whatloveThings.com.
I'm not going to say.
Or join our LinkedIn group, which happily we're still pronouncing in the usual way.
Right, on that second bombshell.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.